Welcome everybody to this conversation with Ananth Chandramouli. He is the Managing Director for the India Business Unit at Capgemini and brings over more than 24 years of experience in various industries, including the regulated ones such as energy and utilities and otherwise. And today we are going to touch upon a very important subject, which is on how do we prepare ourselves as a country for an intelligent tomorrow, both from an industry perspective and from the various stakeholder perspective, whether we are a startup, system integrator, or an IT services company. We'll also try to touch upon a couple of nuances when it comes to some of the technologies that are driving this transformation. And with that, I'll go to Ananth. And Ananth, just wanted to start the conversation from your own experience of driving digital transformation across the various industries in this geography and others. Again, technology like ChatGPT and others, they have been in vogue at least for the past few weeks, and they're taking the world by storm. And the overall theme being, that the future is now more here and now than tomorrow, right? And that's where I just wanted to get a feel from your end on what are some of the differentiating factors that actually separate India from its peers in the emerging market, and does India have a play within all this? And if yes, then if you could just elaborate a little more on India's position in this whole evolving geopolitical as well as technology market, it would be great, and then we can get into the conversation.
So first of all, Kalyan, thank you very much for having me here in this conversation. And it was a fantastic experience at the last, NTLF forum that was recently held in Mumbai. So at a broad level, I think there are three things that are differentiating India, right? One is the demographics. Second is the way the macroeconomic trajectory is there for our country. And thirdly, various initiatives that we are taking at this juncture as a country. So firstly, touching upon the demographics, median age of 28 years, you have the, fantastic digital infrastructure that we talked about during NTLF, which means a very digitally savvy population, penetration of broadband in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. These are all kind of, really kind of making it absolutely viable for various businesses to run, in the country. That is number one. Secondly, as we aim ourselves to be a $5 trillion economy, and of which 25% to be manufacturing, which means that manufacturing has to almost double from where it is today to reach this 25% goal. This is extremely essential for the overall employment of the demographics that we talked about, and also the technological advancements, right? So this is the second feature. The third is, I think we are basically walking the talk as a country, right? Through production-linked incentive schemes, national infra pipeline, your Samarth Udyog Bharat, all are aimed at furthering the private sector investments in the manufacturing. So I think all these three things that are happening in the country definitely uniquely positions us compared to the rest of the emerging or developed markets. To top it all, I think a very thriving IT services sector, which includes the startup ecosystem that we all saw in all its flourish in NTLF. I think we are able to deliver very frugal solutions for various industries, be it regulated or unregulated. We will talk about some of the examples, later. But I think this has really put the country in good stead, Kalyan.
No, that's really great to hear, Ananth, and that's where the recent, I think the economic survey also came out with this whole assertion about GCCs and then the rest of the IT services driving a lot of the FII inflow also into the country, right? So again, the most of the dollars are again coming from these industries. But then again, I just wanted to get your feel on with all this digital transformation initiatives that are being driven from an intelligent tomorrow kind of a theme. Do you see a variety of business models at play? Because we keep hearing about outcome-based ones being spoken about, at least in a lot of analysts meetings from the top IT services companies and otherwise. So just wanted to get a feel on that, right? With this whole evolving situation, do you see a change in some of those models? And if yes, then what is your view? And if there are any examples that you could give that would give us some view.
No, no, absolutely, Kalyan. I think what we call as the era of intelligent products and services has indeed arrived, impacting every industry that you could think of, connected cars to remote health monitoring to smart home services and whatnot, right? So this whole thing, we all call it as the servitization paradigm, right? Or everything as a service, be it end consumers or business. The expectations are fast changing. I want a solution to a problem, okay, or as an enterprise, I want a solution to a business problem. And according to a recent Capgemini Research Institute report, 80% of the organizations see this servitization shift, and they are already acting on it, right? So what does it mean in terms of the business model? I'll just take it as a take an example. I think the printer as a service has not been a new idea. It has been in vogue for some time now, but it is being now taken to the next level. An IoT based solution automatically orders replacement cartridges without the users having to interact. And there are prepaid envelopes that are kind of being sent across to for the used cartridges to be collected back. Of course, this improves the recovery and recycling, okay, and overall reduces the cost. So this, in a way, kind of takes the whole business model to a next level, including circular economy to be brought into play. So the 3 Ps that we talked about, right? People, the end consumers, of course, have a much better customer experience because it's a kind of almost like a no touch, no call. Everything kind of works like a clockwork precision. Second is from a planet standpoint. This has a very reduced environment impact. Companies are forced to think about the entire value chain and ecosystem, and then come up with these kind of business models, right? And this helps in the overall circular economy by bringing back the used cartridges, which could be in turn used in as a raw material for your production. Thirdly, profit for the company itself, the third P. The overall cost of servicing is reduced because the interaction and touch points are very minimal with the customer, because you are kind of providing a very well thought through service to the end client. So I think this is here to stay. This is just an example. But coming back to the larger manufacturing sector in India, 95% of them are MSMEs, as we are all aware, right? But how do you kind of make them part of this intelligent product and services paradigm? There, I think the OEMs need to come to the fore, right? A very often cited example is in the automotive space. The OEMs are the ones that provide the software and systems for their dealers to run their sales and services, right? Likewise, I see the digital transformation of the MSMEs to be an extension of the OEMs capability, right? So because each of the MSMEs cannot really invest on their own, so I see this as also kind of an outcome-based model for the larger interest of the OEM and the value chain, so that they can actually extend their platform to the micro and small medium enterprises. So this is where I see the business models to be kind of expanding to, whether it is enterprises or end consumers, Kalyan.
Very interesting point, Ananth. And this also brings the whole point of design thinking to the fore. Because if you are to actually look at a customer journey, if you are to step back and rather than saying I know it all, step back, look at the customer journey, look at the touch points, and then deploy the right kind of tools and technologies to kind of to measure that, and also to see where is it that you need to change, right? No, this is really great to hear. But beyond that, of course, sustainability is another point that you mentioned. Circular economy, again, these are things that companies might not have really, or rather, even startups might not have really thought about. But it's great to see that that's being integral to this whole thought process as we speak. But coming to just on the manufacturing side, on the supply chain side, again, Tim Cook is here in India. There's a lot of buzz about Apple expanding its manufacturing footprint beyond the retail stores. And that's where I just wanted to get a feel from you, because we've been hearing a lot about the China Plus One strategy and the fact that India is becoming a viable destination for smart manufacturing. Again, there are a lot of smart manufacturing clusters that are coming up. But to the point that you made earlier, just wanted to link it to that point, that beyond design thinking and applying some of the latest tools and technologies, including AI, what are the other kind of capabilities that you think our IT services firms or consulting firms need in order to prepare themselves for this kind of a new opportunity, right? Beyond just services to even manufacturing.
No, that's a very interesting and pertinent question, Kalyan. It is not only the IT services or consulting firms, I'll also include the enterprises themselves want to go through this transformation, right? So if you look at it from at three levels, the strategy, second is the program management, and the third is the actual execution or implementation of your strategy, right? If you look at it in these three levels, first and foremost, the enterprises themselves need to have a lot more clarity in terms of what sort of business models do they want to kind of come up with,
Sure.
right? And then define the digital transformation vision and roadmap. So this itself requires tremendous amount of capability, innovative thought processes. You need to attract talent either as part of your company's payroll, or that's where I think some of the consulting firms can come to the fore. But as part of strategy, one other important dimension is the governance. Okay, you started with some vision and roadmap, but how do you kind of continuously have a very strong governance layer that is kind of built in? And lastly, the culture of the company. I think it's extremely crucial in this juncture to build a culture that is absolutely data driven, right? I think the entire enterprise needs to kind of feel the need for this kind of a change. It's one thing to put a business model on paper, and the second one to execute. But unless the entire organization, starting from the top all the way down, is really kind of they kind of get glued onto it, it's very, very difficult for you to implement it. So coming to the second stage, which is the program management, I see a lot of hybrid skills coming into play, especially since we are talking about smart factories and manufacturing in general. The confluence of engineering and manufacturing skills,
right.
Confluence of manufacturing and maintenance skills,
right.
The safety and security aspects of it. Okay, very strong product and program governance or management. And this is where agile methodologies need to come into play. Again, some of these capabilities should be within the enterprise. You cannot completely outsource everything. Some of these things can be leveraged through a partner, right? So this is the second level. And third level, coming to the actual implementation, which is where your very, very important skill sets like IoT skills, digital skills, the IT OT convergence, as we call it. In the manufacturing paradigm, there is the division between information technology and operations technology is kind of fast, going away. They're all kind of converging, right? So the ability for you to have the right set of people with these kind of skill sets is extremely crucial. This is where a manufacturing firm could rely upon a system integrator or a technology services company than trying to attract these talent on their own. So these are the three broad set of capabilities that are needed to truly realize the smart factory of the future, Kalyan.
That's again great to hear. And again, these pockets of opportunities that are coming up, they're again different from each other, but what you're essentially saying is the core remains the same, right? You need to have those digital skills. You need to have a digital governance, if you can call it that. And you need to be committed to that cause and build it either via partnerships or in-house, right? Some of those core skills, anyway, you'll have it in-house. That again brings me to another part of a question that I wanted to ask, which is on the whole global capability center revolution that has taken India by storm, right? Even the world by storm. We are supposed to be even the first or probably second most number of GCCs in the world, right? The numbers say they have tripled from about 500 to about 1700 today in the last decade. But given your ringside view, because you get into a lot of conversations, whether it's consulting, whether it's system integration, otherwise, do you see a change in some of those value propositions in the sense that, are they actually moving up the value chain, the GCCs themselves? Again, any examples there that could help? Again, linking back to this whole story that, there are emerging opportunities and then the business models are changing. So if you could just touch on some of those, that would be great.
So absolutely, Kalyan. First of all, I think GCCs are a very, very important market segment for me in India. And they have long gone past cost arbitrage. I think that's absolutely clear in everybody's mind. To me, I think three things really stand out in what they want to be doing. Number one, be seen as an innovation partner. Number two, be a scaling partner for their headquarters. And thirdly, even go to the next level, to be a process as well as product owner, right, of certain parts of the enterprise. Okay, so taking over the ownership completely sitting here in India. So these are the three things in terms of going up the value chain. I'll probably try to, give an example. An automotive multinational that entered India a few years back, okay, just before COVID. They, of course, not only wanted to differentiate their product, okay, in this country, but also they wanted to differentiate the customer experience. Okay, relating back to the unique things that the country is kind of going through, the demographics and the digitally savvy, Gen Z and millennials that we are talking about. They wanted to ensure that the customer journey, okay, it's all completely digitalized and it is seamless across channels, devices, and so on and so forth. So I could start off with a 3D configurator of the car that I wanted to kind of have, do a whole lot of customization on my mobile, and then go to a nearby dealer for my test drive. The dealer would already know that I've kind of gone through this other channel. Okay, so it kind of gives me a very, very continuous experience. So this entire development of customer relationship management and the dealer management system, which used to be a very, kind of a run-of-the-mill stuff in the past. Okay, this was built from scratch for the Indian demographics. This was made in India. And these two products and processes were looked at by some of the APAC businesses of that company. They looked at it and they said, wow, we want to throw away all our legacy products and we want to kind of take this to our market. So what was kind of made in India for the Indian demographics, okay, became a de facto platform for quite a few APAC countries. So this kind of brings out the innovation, brings out the scale because the whole thing became a platform. And of course, the India, leadership, because of their prowess in terms of, the process intricacies, became the de facto process owner for the customer journey, right? So this is the power of, the global capability centers that we are seeing. And they're completely changing the conversation with their headquarters, Kalyan.
Well, this is really great. As I think, as somebody mentioned in the NTLF, that the I in India actually stands for innovation today, right? So I think that's probably becoming more real and more power to the sector, right? As we drive more of this transformation from India. Just curious again on the technology part, right? Some of the technology is driving that. Obviously, you have software-driven hardware. You have a lot of Gen AI, generative AI applications coming in. Any take on that? On how this trend is growing and how it's impacting some of these conversations?
Now, as the saying about a decade back, I think Mark Andreessen talked about software is eating the world. Now there is a new saying, 10 years later, AI is eating the software world, right? That is the kind of change that the generative AI has brought up. But that apart, coming back to your point on software-driven hardware systems, I think it has always been in vogue. Okay, and that is now more, I would say, accelerating. We have seen it in the automotive sector, right? The kind of transformation automotive sector has undergone in the last, I don't know, probably about 5 years or so. And what it is undergoing in an accelerated fashion in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be phenomenal. The software-based features and services, okay, according to one of the Capgemini Research Institute reports, will be a $640 billion market by 2031. So it is going to kind of grow 3 times from where we are today in just about 8 years. Wow. Okay, so this will become the OEM's annual revenue. So they are not going to be, of course, they will be selling the products, but one could even reach a stage. Coming back to your business model question, it could be an asset-light model. They may give the product to you for free and then say that, okay, for using the features, you got to turn it on, and that is when your payment starts. Right. So it could actually kind of quickly turn out to that, because with EVs coming into play, number of parts are reduced, the battery costs are coming down. So, I mean, it could go in a completely different direction. But to cut a long story short, I think the software-driven hardware systems absolutely continue to be in vogue, and they will accelerate in all industries, not only automotive, but in aerospace, defense, and so on and so forth.
Again, that's very great to hear, Ananth. And I believe, again, some of these offset conversations that happen on the defense side, probably, we'll see more innovation conversations also there when you talk of whether the IT or the GCC sectors, involvement there. Again, coming towards the end of the conversation, again, one last question to you. I know we covered a lot of base. I'm very curious about the whole startup. Of course, you referred to that sometime prior in your response, but just want to understand, you do a lot of work with startups yourself. You have some cohorts that you run annually, and also your whole relationship with academia. Any specific, again, since the whole paradigm is changing, we're living in a no normal situation, business models are changing, end users, whether it's a consumer or an industrial end user, again, their preferences are changing. Given all this change, what is the advice that you have for entrepreneurs and for students alike, right, as they prepare themselves for this no normal future?
See, honestly, I think the enterprises like us need to take advice from entrepreneurs for their resilience, agility, and passion. And the ChatGPT usage for enterprise that we saw in NTLF recently was just amazing, isn't it? But having said that, I think Capgemini as an enterprise, I think we have been having a very, very vibrant startup ecosystem through both what we call as Applied Innovation Exchange AIE, or with the support of some of our partners like SAP, right? So we kind of do it for a living. We want to create a very, very vibrant ecosystem. So as a system integrator, what we are looking for, from a startup, number one, their fitment into the ecosystem. I really encourage them to leverage us, and also our partners like various hyperscalers and product OEMs, etc. So I think that fitment into the ecosystem, they are not alone. It has to be an ecosystem play, has to be ingrained. Second is intertwine sustainability as part of their ideation and product development, not as an afterthought. As a company, I think we very strongly believe in digital and sustainability. So it's no more a mobile first, cloud first, security first kind of a thing, which we were kind of gone through in the last decade or so. This is now sustainability first. Okay, so that kind of a thought process needs to be kind of brought in, and that's what the customers are also looking for more and more. Okay, and the last one is, of course, building a very, very healthy culture, a very empathetic culture. A lot of startups have gone through tough times, during COVID, and even now in the last 6 months or so as the funds dry up and so on and so forth. But the ability for the startup to build a very, very healthy and empathetic culture is extremely crucial for them to be part of the first point that I talked about, to be part of an ecosystem that requires a lot much more humility and collaboration that needs to be kind of brought in. So these are some of the thoughts that I have, Kalyan, from a startup standpoint. As I mentioned, I think we have, as enterprises, a lot to learn from the startup ecosystem as well.
Again, great to hear your thoughts, Ananth. Again, just to sum it all up, I think what we have today uncovered or discovered during the course of this conversation is the amazing opportunity that India is sitting on from the geopolitics and otherwise. The opportunities again on the downstream, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's whether it's the consumer side or the industrial side of the business, and the various business models that are at play. What you said really stuck to me: the everything as a service, and hence the impact that it has on your day-to-day operations. Right? Do you have asset-light model? And the number of disruptors that it's probably throwing onto the market, right? With the startups and the rest of even some of the larger companies disrupting themselves. I think we are living in very exciting times. Thanks a lot for joining into this conversation. I believe this is a conversation that we need to continue. But overall, I think this is really great to kind of hear your viewpoints, given your experience, and look forward to speaking more on this.
Thank you, Kalyan, and thanks, NASScom, for having me here. It's a pleasure.